Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. Over the last couple days we've talked a little bit about the potential where Bitcoin makes one more lower low before the next leg up inside of this cycle. Today I wanted to take time to go back over Bitcoin, analyzing exactly what is happening on the shorter time frames, talking a little bit more about where we would be going if we did in fact see a lower low, and then we're going to be diving into the total market cap and looking at every index of crypto so that we know exactly what the charts are telling us so that we can position ourselves accordingly over the next couple weeks and make the most profit on the next coming move that's going to take place. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, here we are to start off today's video, and we are going to be diving into Bitcoin. Now so far everything that we've been talking about with our bearish count has actually been playing out, so we do need to talk a little bit more about what that means. Now what we've been covering was the fact that what we saw was 5 impulse waves down. We saw this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I talked about how generally after 5 waves down, you're going to see an ABC back up. And that's exactly what we saw here. Our target was the 786 and the 618, and we ended up coming right in between both of those levels before we ended up topping. Now, anytime you see Bitcoin decline 5 waves down or up, and you see it correct back to a 618, that's the golden pocket. That's the prime place where you're going to see the market end up falling for continuation. So that's kind of what I'm watching out for with Bitcoin. Because we finished 5 waves down and an ABC back up, I do believe that we are going to be starting a leg into one more low. And where that low takes us, it's going to be interesting. I think that Bitcoin, it can bottom over here at like 39,300, but I think it will most likely end up coming back down to this prior resistance that we were consolidating on. I think that that's the most likely scenario, where we maybe do something like this, have like one big sort of sell-off like that, and we finish another 5-wave decline to the downside before that's over. Overall, all that would be is just a big picture A, B, and a C correction. So it wouldn't change anything. It's just the fact that we would be going for one more final low before we're actually done with this correction. Now, when we come over here and look at Ethereum, Ethereum is also pulling back after a decent move off the lows. And when I look at Ethereum, I do see 5 impulse waves to the upside. This kind of looks like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And if that's the case, we would be looking for some type of corrective wave back down. And the 618 for ETH is all the way down at 1,856, and then the 0.5 is 1950. So when I'm looking at ETH, I find it more likely that if it was going to have a pullback right now, it would come back down to pretty much like right here. That would be my main area of demand, 1950 to like 1850. That $100 level would be my main area of support, because even though we are sitting, I removed the box, but even though we are technically sitting on top of the prior range highs, we did run down and retest that right here, but the fact that we're getting weakness tells me that we're going to be ending up coming for one more low, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it do something like this. So now as we're coming over here and taking a look at the total market cap for altcoins, I figured that this is a great thing to jump into right after covering ETH, because if ETH is looking like we could be looking for one more lower low right in here, coming back down to retest this range high once more, then with the total market cap, it should be pointing towards a similar sort of sell-off coming. Now, one of the things I tell you guys often is to look at the total market cap charts, because they're going to behave level to level, support and resistance, things like that, a little bit more symmetrically than maybe what the dollar pairs will do. And so when we're looking at this, I want to talk a little bit about divergences, because I feel like now is an important time to understand exactly what they mean and how to trade them, both hidden divergences and just normal divergences, bullish and bearish. Now, when we're looking at this, we've seen this big move off of this breakout, and we've actually cleared the range highs, and we currently have retested those range highs, and we're just kind of consolidating right here. Now, when you're looking at this, it doesn't look really one way or another. It looks more bullish, like we could just see this thing rebound and continue up from here. But when we're diving into our momentum indicators, I think that this is telling another sign that we need to pay attention for. So on the RSI, we do have bearish divergence forming, which if you're not familiar with what bearish divergence is when the price right here makes a higher high, and then the indicator makes a lower high, right? So notice how the RSI made a lower high here, whereas the price made a higher high right there. And then if we're looking over here at the OBV, the on balance volume, this is an indicator that will, in my opinion, tell us a little bit more accurately than the RSI, because the RSI can stay oversold or overbought for a long period of time, and the OBV will kind of give us a little bit more of an accurate and quicker sort of conclusion. So when we're comparing the two, the OBV from right here to right here made a higher high on the indicator, but the price from there to there is actually a lower high. So we're seeing a lower high there and a higher high on the OBV. So we're actually seeing the inverse of that. Whenever the price makes a lower high and the indicator makes a higher high, that's what's known as hidden bearish divergence, right? So that's what we saw on the OBV. We see hidden bearish divergence here with a higher high on the indicator, yet a lower high on the price. So when I'm looking at this and I'm seeing a lower high on the RSI, bearish divergence, and we're seeing hidden bearish divergence on the OBV will, generally speaking, give you a much more valid answer one way or another. So now that we're seeing this divergence playing out, I honestly think that we're going to end up seeing a correction as well. So now comes the time where we need to really be paying attention when we're looking at the total market cap, because we've had this big breakout off of the lows, and to me it does look like we could be nearing a point where we end up seeing some type of a correction. Now once again, if we're looking at where we're going to bottom, I think the Fibonacci is a great way of gauging that, and I'm really just looking at this 0.5 being in this prior consolidation here that we were just in, or down to the 618 being just a little bit back below that. And I think that the 618 is probably the more likely scenario. And so if you're looking at when to get into a position, it would probably be any sort of correction. I just don't think that now is the prime opportunity. If we're getting bearish divergence on the RSI and hidden bearish divergence on the OBV at the same time, it gives us a much more strong conclusion that that's what's going to play out. And this is also on a daily time frame. So it's not like it's some small time frame that we're maybe guessing a little bit more if it's going to play out. This is something that's most likely going to end up having a little bit more strength to it, just because it's two different signals at the same time on a higher time frame. It doesn't really get better than that. So if we're looking at this and we're looking for where we're going to correct, I think it's really just here and here, and that's where we're going to be looking for a potential sell-off. And that's where I would probably end up just focusing the majority towards buying the dip, because if we pull back down in here and we end up doing something like this, that's where you're going to have a lot of altcoins coming back down on discounts. That's where you're going to be able to jump back in on the market after such a big move off of the lows, because we've already broken out technically from these range highs. We are retesting them here, but I honestly think that we're most likely going to end up coming back below that range once more, probably coming back down closer to the mid-range of this entire thing before, we'd be looking at that next leg up. That's kind of what I'm watching for in the short term when it comes to the total market cap for altcoins. I just think that the way the indicators are lining up, it's showing that we've got a little bit more weakness forming in here, and it does look like we could be in for one more sort of correction before we end up getting continuation up. So that's kind of what I'm watching there. Now when we come over here and look at the others, basically all of the cryptos in the market except Bitcoin and ETH, this one has actually led and outperformed a little bit. We've seen it continue to hold really solid support, even up after the point of all of these other markets showing more weakness. Now with this one, I mean, you could count this as a higher high, but it's not really much of a higher high. Like, it did technically wick slightly above the range high, but I mean, this is still following along with the other charts, being a little bit more bearish divergence, where we're still technically below resistance. The OBV made a higher high, which is hidden divergence on the bearish side, and then the RSI has already shown bearish divergence since our prior resistance over here at 421 billion. So when we're looking at all of these, we're pretty much seeing the same thing. This is the only one that you could maybe draw the conclusion could maybe go for one more higher high, but I'm just not necessarily seeing it. If all of these are about to correct, most likely they're going to come back down to either the 0.5 or the 618. 0.5 being here at the prior support consolidation, or the 618 being back down here, kind of retesting the mid-range of that last accumulation, right? Because this has just been the mid-range consolidation of our entire bear market bottom and this beginning of the uptrend. I won't be surprised to see this ending up coming back down to retest that one more time before we end up continuing inside of this uptrend. That's what I'm looking at big picture. I still think that we're bullish and we're going to continue on up in the cycle, but the question is, we're looking at quite a bit of weakness inside of our momentum indicators, showing that we might be due for one more final correction before we're ending up going to get that next, real breakout into, probably closer to 620 billion. The thing about these charts is the fact that we just don't really have much resistance once we can get above the range highs. Now, we just barely got above them, but it's not looking like we're actually going to be ending up breaking out and holding continuation. It kind of looks like we still need to see that one more sell-off like I talked about. But when we do finally get above, there's literally no resistance until all the way up to 635 billion. And so the move that's coming next is going to be very big. I just think that in the short term, we're actually going to be due for some type of a pullback back down. That's where we're going to be wanting to focus the majority of our, entries into. I think that as long as the market continues to pull back and show more weakness, Bitcoin, really just looks like it needs that final lower low like I talked about. And I think that that's the best thing that we can kind of gauge is wherever this thing starts to look like it's reversing, whether that's just the prior consolidation that we've been at. But when I look at Bitcoin on a weekly time frame, it looks more like we're just going to be consolidating inside of this range with the shorter time frame showing one more lower low coming. I won't be surprised for us to come back down to the low end of this range being basically 38,000 before, maybe coming back up, coming all the way back up for one more final sort of move. That's kind of what I'm watching for on the bigger time frames for Bitcoin. That's what I think is going to keep playing out. It's just in the shorter time frames we're going to fill out this range as we've made such a large breakout to the upside. So this is the video I had for you guys. Wanted to break things down simply, just cover the market, explain what I'm seeing inside of things. Overall, I just see this as a correction coming up, and I don't think it's going to be anything bad or anything to worry about necessarily. It's just that you don't want to be too over leveraged right now before we end up seeing any sort of correction, because even though it would be a smaller lower low, the potential of a decent sort of pullback is always there. And, even if it's a small pullback in altcoins, that can still be a pretty decent move. And a lot of people get surprised if they're in a position, they're in profit, and all of a sudden the market pulls back and then they're down $5,000 on this position that they used to be up over that. So it's just part of the game. It's better to just lock up those profits anytime you start to see any short-term weakness. Whenever the momentum indicators are showing that weakness, to me, it's just an early sign. And with the OBV and the RSI lining up at the same time, I've already known that the RSI was doing it because it's been showing that for a while. But now with the OBV showing hidden bearish divergence, I just think that both of those lining up at the same time are most likely going to end up being an early warning sign that we're about to go in for some type of deeper pullback. So I wanted to keep you guys aware, wanted to keep you guys in the loop, explain my thoughts moving forward. If you found value in this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. If you guys want to join the Discord server, see how I'm investing, see how I'm trading inside of this market, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. Once you're signed up, you're always going to have access inside of my Discord server. As long as I'm trading, as long as I'm investing, as long as I'm doing anything, even outside of crypto in the markets like the stock market, commodities, things like that, you're always going to have access to that inside of the Discord. So if you want access, links in the description, sign up on my website. And with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. As always, peace out.